Sam Matanle, co-founder of Batch London, the London fashion house taking the city by storm, breaking down the conventions behind suits. Batch are changing the way consumers buy sustainable, high-quality clothing with their made-to-order custom batches.
At what point does your desire to be a sustainable fashion brand conflict with your desire to grow?
So that seems like potentially expensive. What's the...
If you're not client facing, they're just in a t-shirt, and then these two idiots rock up in a three-piece suit.
Suit, jacket and trouser market for men and women was 15.2 billion in 2021. We're back in this loop of waste that's not good for people, it's not good for business, it's not good for the planet. It's like, it doesn't benefit anyone. Doesn't surprise me. Wearing a suit to a funeral, and that's probably like the only place that we don't market our suits to, and we're like, maybe we should.
Ideally the person in the casket,
like,
that's how you get the most eyes.
If I could guarantee that, I would do it my marketing.
Today's episode is brought to you by Profile, a PR agency that turns entrepreneurs and CEOs into industry leaders through media coverage, LinkedIn and video.
LinkedIn, media and speaking opportunities are often an afterthought, especially for CEOs. They just don't have the time. That's where Profile step in. They take care of everything. They're an end-to-end service, so you can hand over the profile building to them and worry about driving the growth of your business.
So if you've got a story to tell and you want to build a profile as an entrepreneur or industry leader, you can find out more by going to www.welcometoprofile.com. You know, so obviously you sell suits, but are you selling them to people who are now wearing them in the workplace, or are they like a casual thing?
Both. To be honest, that's sort of the whole design premise. It's like you can wear it for work, but then you can also wear it from work to drinks, to a mate's birthday at the pub, and not like a twat in a traditional suit. Yeah. Everyone's like, oh, get you, you've got a big banking job, do you? And it's like, you know, we've moved away from that in terminology, like that alpha male personality, which is like, I'm super dominant, into something that's a bit different, and the masculinity is changing a bit, as is femininity, and they're kind of meeting in the middle here. But being able to wear something that you can represent well in a board meeting, or I don't know, in an important sales meeting, but then also look pretty cool after work by changing a pair of shoes or a t-shirt, or not even, you know, how I've got it started now with a white t-shirt and smart shoes, carries through both of those different environments. And
you know what it kind of reminds me of is like, and I'm such a, this is my biggest issue, is that like I'm so into athleisure now. Like I love to wear clothes that I can wear to the gym but also wear out and about. And this is like the suit equivalent.
Yeah, it is.
Because you can wear it into a meeting, and like the way I'm dressed now, it's like the next time I actually go and meet a friend, even if I haven't been out for like been to a meeting beforehand, like I'd want to wear this as well, which I think is awesome. Yeah,
it's cool. I think it's very different to what we know of the traditional suit, which is an outdated formality, but you still want those emotions when you put on a suit, which is like, feel pretty good. Like there's a real sense of power and pride, and dressing up to look formal is a good feeling. It incites good emotions, but you can still do that and be comfortable and not get to the end of the day and be like, I think you mentioned it earlier when you used to wear suits on the podcast, and you're like, it's not sustainable because it's so uncomfortable. And you just want to get out
uncomfortable. And it actually put a lot of like guests at unease, because you know, a lot of people, they go to work, you know, you're working Monday to Friday 9 to 5, and like most people, if you're not client facing, they're just in a t-shirt, and then these two idiots rock up in a three-piece suit. It's like, what the fuck are you doing?
There's almost a trust thing these days with wearing a suit and sales, and people are mistrusting of sales personnel, whether that's in, I don't know, let's use the car salesman example, is probably a good one to reference back to. Your car salesman rocked up like in an immaculate suit and tie, and you're a bit like, are you gonna fuck me over? Like you are. And we're that, it used to be the inverse of that, I guess. Probably like in the generation, our parents' generation, it was like, this guy's put together and he respects the way he looks, and so he's gonna work really hard for me and make sure he gets me the best deal. And now I don't know whether it's a sort of cultural shock that we've gone through, or whether it's by movies, or...
This might be a stupid question, but I feel like I have to ask, what determines a suit? What is a suit?
It's a really interesting question to ask, because that's been one of our barriers, the word suit, for a few reasons. Firstly, if you don't wear a suit anymore, which basically no one does, there's a few industries that still do, but if you don't wear a suit anymore and you hear the word suit, for us, then it's like, well, I don't need that, so I'm not going to wear it. If you do wear a suit, I'm talking traditional suits here, and you hear the word suit and you like, oh, that's interesting, and then you check out what we sell and it's not a traditional suit, so it doesn't work for what you're looking for, you kind of lose both ends. So in terms of what defines the word suit, we call it it's a two-piece garment. We call it a suit because it carries some meaning. You hear the word suit, immediately you kind of know what that means. Or we've called it a redefined suit so far. We're actually rebranding and repropositioning, and we'll probably have released all of that by the time this comes out. But we're moving away from the word suit as our lead message, and it's always been Batch London Suits Redefined.
Right.
And we're now dropping that as our tagline, as it were. The word suit is still very powerful, and it carries a lot of power behind it, and it's allowed us to do really well with influencers, because you're inviting someone down for a free suit fitting. Who's going to say no to that? But as a lead message, and as we start to release new products from overcoats to shirts, etc., that being our sort of keyword we're moving away from. It's a bit of a long-winded answer to your question, really, but there isn't an exact definition of the suit. It's quite a loose phrase, but I think because we've all grown up around it, we know what that means, and it's like a two-piece.
And it also, I think, certainly to me, and I think every customer's journey is different when they look on your website and what suit means to them.
Yeah.
But it certainly helps to familiarise with the process of custom ordering and things like that, because that is the domain of the suit. Yeah. Most people are familiar with tailoring their first garments as actually suits.
Exactly.
And making a suit your own in all the same ways. So these are suits. And then if I wore this individually, because I could, with jeans, let's say.
Exactly.
Then it's a jacket, but it's not a suit jacket, which is
it's
weird.
a jacket.
Yeah, right. So we start.
But this is where it's interesting. This is why there's a real place and a market for the casual suit, and that's what we believe we're leading in. We're etching out and like bringing that to the forefront of people's minds. Everyone's kind of like forgotten about suits and turned off to them, unless you've got a wedding or a funeral, in which case you've got a traditional suit that's sat in your wardrobe picking up dust for the last. You might get out once a year and then it doesn't fit or whatever it is, and actually there's a place for the next genesis of the suit that everyone should have in their wardrobe that solves that problem of what to wear when you want to look good. The difference being that you can continue to wear it after the wedding, and you can wear just the jacket and just the trousers, whereas you probably wouldn't do that with a traditional suit. Like you might with a what do they call them, a sports jacket, but you're not really wearing your like pinstripe trousers with your white tee. And so I think there's like we've moved beyond that, and created a new outfit, as it were, that sits in your wardrobe, that fulfills so many different occasions and times, and really does become that backbone and the thing that you know you can throw on and you're actually going to look pretty good, irrespective of what else you're wearing with it, whether it's trainers like you're wearing, or smart shoes, or boots, or even Birkenstocks. Like you can style it in so many different ways, and so your outfit never gets old. You just have a huge amount of variety and versatility in what it is. And
yes,
I mean, we're kind of living it right now, because we're all wearing
completely different
outfits.
We're
all wearing completely different accessories to go with it: trainers, shoes, boots, shirt, jumper, t-shirts.
And while we're focused on the suits, would you mind also expanding on the material, because I think that's an interesting part, and I think a big part for everyone is the materials being used. You had mentioned that these were some different types of materials new to the range.
Also, just quickly, what's also interesting about the fact that we're all wearing it is we could all change outfits, we could all change suit colours, and it would look completely different but still good, which I think is like quite, I don't think there's many garments that do that. But yeah, materials is a really interesting one, and this is the one that you're wearing, is a carbon brush cotton, which is the first material we started with.
And this is a recent release?
So that's a recent release colour. So this one's called, the one you're wearing is called Petrol.
Great.
We first started with that same material, but with a Pacific blue and a sand colour. So like navy and cream is a pretty good standard way to go.
And is that why you started there? Because it was colours people are familiar with? It's
just nice familiar colours, they're pretty easy to style. Yeah. It's a good way to sort of enter a market without trying.
You didn't think pinstripe?
No, not to begin with. It's probably a bit too aligned to the traditional suit that we were like throwing shade on. But the one you're wearing is kind of pinstripey, so the herringbone. But yeah, so this the one you're wearing, Lawrence, is our first material. It's a carbon brush cotton. All our materials are from Italy. It's got 2% elastane. The carbon brush is quite literally, they run a carbon brush over the material.
And why do they do that?
It makes it soft.
Nice. So
it's almost velvety to feel, but it makes it really comfortable. Someone described it as smart pajamas. What we found really interesting with materials is there's a few people that do care about what composition it is and they know what that means, but what we missed is we didn't have any fashion experience when we started it. So when you're looking at different materials and weights and compositions, you don't have a clue what that's going to turn out like. You're filling these little swatches. Very first suit we made, we went for a canvas, and you're feeling a tiny swatch, and we're like, this isn't heavy enough, this isn't going to be thick enough. So go calling them again, and like, we need something thicker. We don't make anything thicker, this is the thickest we've got. So okay, fine, we'll take that. Send it to production to get made. It was so thick they couldn't sew the buttons in. So these samples were trying to test for fit, like straight jackets, which you can't move it. So the point being that until it's using these like fancy compositions and numbers doesn't really mean anything to anyone, and it's taken us ages to sort of discover that and learn that, because you get so caught up in your own process. And really what people want to know is it going to make me sweat loads? Is it comfortable? Is there stretch in it? Am I going to feel uncomfortable when I'm sitting down in the trousers? Am I at risk of ripping them, start dropping at a wedding? It's the sort of, rather than the composition of the material and what it is, like what's the end result of that? What is the emotion or what's the action? When
you talk about getting the samples, I do want to make sure that we include, because the company is a few years old now and you're part of a co-founding team, right? And when you set up the company and you decided with no fashion experience to do this, it surprises me to hear that you're working with small fabric samples, as opposed to, a layman like me might think, if I'm going to set up my own brand, I go into other shops and look at the materials already being used. And then I know that the material works, this, that, and the other. Why did you choose to go to such sort of rudimental, fundamental building blocks and start from the ground up?
I think because, to your point, that's a good place to start, is to be like, let's find other garments and materials that we like and let's reference of that. Problem is, no one's telling you where they're from, where the factory is, what the exact composition is, where you can find that. So you're kind of working back on yourself to then try and find the same perfect material, and then when you've got the material and you put it into your pattern, so the pattern being the different segments that then get made up into the item that gets sewn together. Different materials fall differently, fit differently, the pattern then needs adjusting. So we decided to just go back to the beginning and like, let's find a perfect fabric, let's attach it to our pattern rather than trying to follow what someone else has done.
And how long does that process take?
We did it in 10 months.
Wow, so a long time.
We registered the business in July of 2021 and then launched our first collection in May of 2022.
Cool.
So you talk about not having experience in the fashion industry.
Yeah.
What was the reason that made you want to get into it in the first place then?
Actually quite a simple one, in that I wanted a casual suit and I couldn't find any good ones. And I always had an interest in looking good, but I wouldn't say I was particularly passionate about fashion. Wasn't reading Vogue on a monthly basis, but a keen interest in looking and dressing well and finding nice clothes to wear. And then, like I said, wanted a casual suit, couldn't find any good ones. There was a brand in America that I was looking at, which I thought was quite good, but didn't love the fit, and it was really expensive to bring to the UK. And so just saw an opportunity and pretty quickly brought it to my co-founder Julian, and then we started building out the idea together, researching it, realising the timing was great. There is actually a market here, potential market here. The market's not really a market until you've proven it, but there's potential. Theoretically there was a market there.
And how were you establishing that? By sort of selling small quantities to friends, family, people you knew?
Firstly by doing market testing and just reaching out to people and like, is there something you would wear? When was the last time you wore a suit? Is a casual suit of interest to you? And
are these pictures you're showing them, or samples, real life look and feel, things they could try on, or just...
Not real life at this point. This is like pre-actually making anything, but more like pictures, examples, and explanation really. So like, not that thorough to begin with, but enough of a gut feel. And I think that's a lot of startups look, what's the actual size of the market? So in the UK, the suit, jacket and trouser market for men and women was 15.2 billion in 2021. So suddenly you're like, okay, well, if you take a tiny fraction of that, there's a huge market to go after there.
Yes.
Like, it's pretty mad how large it is, to be honest.
Yes.
And then gut feel from talking to friends and family and people that you think it would work for, but a lot of it is gut feel really to begin with.
But it's also, you're using that secret
Pre-product.
sauce, I mean, where you were the consumer. So you had your first market testing done by the fact that you wanted this particular product. You'd experienced it. That's right.
We've got one.
But you'd be amazed how many companies are run and founded by companies, people who aren't necessarily consumers of their own product.
Yeah, which doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, it's a fundamental kind of Achilles heel to a business, because you never really understand your product, because you don't want to buy it yourself.
It can also be a trap though, because you get stuck trying to market to yourself and then not working out how to market to people that aren't yourself, and so you know there's only going to be a finite number of people that are identical to me.
Yes,
they would consume in the way that I do, so I'm only speaking to them in the way that I want to be spoken to, rather than like working out how you speak to other people in maybe a slightly different way that that your product solves a problem for them, which isn't the problem for you, but it still solves a problem for them, and how do you address that?
So at this time when you and Julian are sort of sitting down and thinking this might be something here, what are you doing professionally at that point? Are you working when these ideas are coming to you, or have you, this is it, you go full time?
No, so we were both working full time, both in other startups. Or Jude's got working for a company called Oddballs, who basically make like boxers, underwear for sort of more like sporty occasions really, but with a connection to testicular cancer charity. And they were becoming quite established. He was a very early joiner in there, I think probably third or fourth employee in. I was working for a drink startup, again third employee in. Jude was more in retail, sales, marketing. I was more in operations and finance. So like quite a good yin and yang, had opposing skills, but both had a keen interest in the other side as well, which has been an unusual way to work together. Like a lot of founding teams are like, this is your remit and this is your remit, and let's not step on each other's toes. Whereas we've managed to dance around stepping on each other's toes just about in the right way. Sometimes we get it wrong. But it means that if one of us steps away or one of us goes on holiday, then the other person knows exactly what's going on.
Yeah. And did you have to seek investment to really launch big?
No. So well, yeah, sort of. We launched it was about 50k that we launched with our savings, plus then a small loan from my dad and Julian's grandma, which we've now nearly paid back. And then that got us through our first 2 collections. Then to move into retail, we raised another 50k, and then since then we've raised about $1 million.
We talk a little bit about Batch and the model that you operate, but I assume, just going back to Lawrence's point about raising, I suppose the benefit to you as a business is that you receive the money from your customers first before, so you're not necessarily suffering from that classic issue with retailers who are spending a lot of money to get the product in and then waiting to sell it before they can start making money back. Yeah,
and actually this was like a pain point that I carried through from the drinks world, where you're in this constant cash flow hole, because you might have to pay it's very rare that you get payment terms with a manufacturer until you're really, really, really established and you give them tons of business over 10 years. So you're having to pay 2 months up front to produce your stock and buy your ingredients. And then even if you were to sell all of that immediately to a supermarket, they're on like 120-day payment terms, and you're not going to sell it all immediately to a supermarket. So you've got a minimum 5-month cash hole there before you can start getting that cash flow back into the business.
Right.
Whereas the way that we operate is we take cash first and then make the product later. We don't end up with any waste at the end, any leftover stock, because if it's not sold, so we launched a pink suit in like our second or third collection, which is really cool and a really good like way to bring fresh eyes to the brand, but didn't sell that well. And if we'd bought 500 suits, pink suits, we'd still be sitting on the stock now being like, what do we do with it? Whereas I think we probably sold 25 pink suits in the end. So we only made 25 pink suits. So we don't sit with loads of waste at the end. We're not having to do heavy discounts to sell dead stock that's not moving. So we take cash first and then make stock later, which means that all of the raise money that we get in, by and large, like we're still not operationally profitable yet. There's salaries to pay, there's overheads to cover, but we're not sinking cash into stock that sits there unsold. So most of the money that we raise goes straight back into growth and marketing.
Right.
And that was the pitch to investors, and takes away a lot of the risk of one, releasing new products, but two, investing in a business that's sitting on stock.
Yes, it's a pretty efficient system that you have put together, I'm sure, by design and from your previous experience, that yin and yang you were talking about. But it strikes me that it seems to me that there are other opportunities for more growth, and I'm sure you're perfectly aware of them already, where, we spoke before we sat down in front of camera that I wanted a flaming emblem on the back of my jacket. And you said, no, you can't have it.
Yeah.
Now, are you saying no, you can't have it because as a founder you have a vision for how people should look good, and you know that a flaming emblem on the back of my jacket isn't going to look rad?
Yeah.
Or is it because from an operational perspective that's just something that as a company you can't undertake, you can't give the customer that full flexibility just yet?
It's a bit of both, to be honest. So there's one side that if you've got a certain brand image and way that you're trying to perpetuate your brand, that you don't want to muddy the waters too soon. I think there's a birth period where you establish yourself and people know who you are and what you do before you then start to be super eccentric and add in loads of stuff. I think I've seen it lots before, probably more in like FMCG and food and drink, where people get bored of their own products internally and then start releasing load of products and one that spreads them too thin, and then people don't know what you're doing. A good example was I can't remember exactly what they're called, it's like V12, the like vegetable juice brand.
Oh yeah, the tomato juice.
Yeah, what is it, V12?
Something of that nature.
Something.
I'm not a big tomato juice fan.
They released like 20 different juices and various combinations of vegetables and fruit, and their sales tanked because suddenly they weren't this like go-to get all of your nutrients in one juice, and then had to revert back to simplifying their range. And so we have a little bit of that attitude with, we don't need to have thousands of products.
But what about from the customer's perspective? Because it strikes me, Ryan, if I was a customer coming in to buy myself a bespoke or customized something or other, I'm happy to do the wait time of 8 weeks. There must be more room. It strikes me that more customers than not would have ideas perhaps of how to personalize further their customized and sort of unique to them jacket.
Yeah, so I think it's an interesting one, and personalization is something that we want to step into.
Okay, nice.
And it would be like low scale personalization. Can you choose your buttons? Can you get your initials embroidered on some part of the jacket? How it works at the moment, because it's not actually a custom fit. It's made to order, not made to measure, and there's quite a key difference in that. Made to measure is something that's a new pattern cut specifically to your sizes and measurements.
Okay.
And that's really expensive because you're making each piece individually, and there's another load of processes to go through. So if you're looking to get a made-to-measure suit in London, you're like north of 1,200 quid to get that done, and that's suddenly not very accessible for most people. Whereas what we do is made to order, so it's off-the-shelf sizing, where we can make minor adjustments in things like sleeve length or arm length, or add a little bit more of a taper, which happens after it's produced. And the benefit of that is we can keep the cost really low. So the made to order model allows us to deliver a much higher quality for less. Initially it was all about sustainability. The challenge is that people don't care enough about sustainability to make purchase decisions based on it. We will say we care, when it actually comes to spending money.
Well, we were talking about this on the way in, and we've met with a lot of companies now that talk about sustainability, and it's such a worthwhile mission and cause, but it's very hard to translate that to the customer. You know, everyone, as you say, everyone says they care, but it's like, okay, we're just going to cost you an extra 100 quid. Like, I don't care that much.
Yeah, literally.
In fact, we were discussing
extra 10 quid.
Do you remember the Tesla Roadster back in the day?
No.
When Tesla first came out, there was a Top Gear episode with them. This was before Elon joined Tesla. They introduced the Tesla Roadster. It was a shit little smart car looking thing. Yeah. And they told everyone you should buy electric cars because the icebergs are melting. And everyone was like, yeah, kind of get it, but like my petrol car.
Performance?
Yeah, right, exactly. And then Elon comes along and makes like, by the way, if you lean into the wind on the electric side, you put Netflix in the car. Yeah. Now everyone wants to buy the car with Netflix, but they can also say at the Christmas party, did you know it stops the icebergs melting so quick? It's selfishly and kind of, they managed to get that same thing, which I suppose is why I bring up the customization aspect from the customer, because you have this USP, but actually it goes deeper. And when I came into the store today and I saw the materials you were using, the price saving really jumped out at me, because I'm perfectly aware of the materials we're wearing at the moment. If they were in the traditional made to measure suit, then 1,200 quid is conservative pricing. So I suppose really we're waiting for the combination of the sustainability issue about textiles and the issue that arises from large chains throwing away so many clothes to coalesce with then providing new exciting opportunities for someone to buy custom clothing and add that personalization aspect that you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly that. I think it's like our ethos has always been we only need to make, we want to make a large proportion of people 10% better rather than make a smaller portion of people 100% better. So if buying a nice, sustainable, high quality suit, we touched on this just before starting, you're not going to buy loads of them because that's suddenly lots of money for a lot of people. But if you've got 1, 2, 3, that's now the backbone to your wardrobe that you support with t-shirts from H&M or Uniqlo, like brands that are traditionally pretty wasteful, that's fine. Just start your journey somewhere. It's the same as like telling a meat eater to go vegan overnight. It's not really that accessible to most people, but you might be able to buy from the butcher.
Yes.
Or you might be able to eat, not eat meat once a week. And then if everyone does that, there's quite a big impact that there's knock-on effect from that. So it's similar to us. It's like start your sustainability journey somewhere, start buying high quality items, see how much you wear it, start to consider your price per wear, which suddenly when you see how often you wear it, which lots of our customers do, which is why we've got such a high return customer rate, because people keep coming back for more because they like wear it the whole time and it feels great and I get loads of compliments and for 395 is quite an initial upfront expenditure, but then when you start to spread that over the course of 2 years, there's something that you're wearing nearly every day. It's like,
and is that an option they can do? Can they pay finance over 2 years on Klarna?
No, we've got Klarna. 2-year finance would be a bit of a stretch.
Okay, fine.
But yeah, we do have Klarna, and again, that's a contentious point around like is that there's a bit of a cultural shift towards everyone being in debt, which like I fall in the trap of, and suddenly like get to buy loads of stuff on Klarna, and then I'm concerned as to why I'm running out of money every month.
For sure. And talking about running out of money, sorry, I heard we were talking with your team earlier on, and we were already a lovely store. You know, it's like dream premises for loads of people, and apparently there's a move upcoming potentially to Covent Garden.
Yeah.
So that seems like potentially expensive. What's the decision behind moving from an already idyllic shop to another place, and you know, what does that bring? What opportunities does that bring?
So as it stood so far, we moved into retail like 6 months into starting the business, which is, if you were to ask advice on that from people that had been, it's kind of the superpower of not coming from a fashion background, is just do things the way you think they should be done. If we'd asked for advice on that, people would have been like, that's mental.
That's how you
stay well away from that.
You've got to do your own thing.
So you just do it, and because we're approaching it from a different angle, we found a way to get into retail without spending loads of money initially by taking, short-term leases, which meant that we're filling a gap whilst they're waiting for a big lease, 10-year lease to be signed off, which might take 6 months to go through the various departments, HR, legals, etc. And we, rather than have an empty unit, we slide in, take it on a short-term lease with a short notice period. Shortest notice period so far has been 5 days, which is a pretty stressful time. We were just about to launch a sample sale as well.
Okay.
So we'd like done all this planning into the sample sale over the weekend, and then day before they're like, oh, by the way, you need to move out on Monday. We're like, fuck, that's not going to happen. So you just find a way to make it work. But we've proven that physical retail is a really strong model for us. Partly because of what we're selling. It's nice to be able to touch and feel and try. And when you're buying something and waiting for it, you want to know that it fits. And to this point, we've not done a great job of like explaining the sizing online and explaining how the model works and explaining that it's off-the-shelf sizing, and this big brand redevelopment, which is again going to be live by the time this is out, but coming soon, does a much better job of explaining that.
Okay.
But our physical retail is our highest converting channel. It's about 70% of people that try on a suit go on to buy it, which will probably make more sense to you guys now that you've got one on.
Yes. Yeah, it was a very scoundrel move.
Yeah.
Sold us straight away.
Straight in the handcuffs.
Yeah, we fall into the 70%.
Yeah. And when you do try it on and you see how well it fits and feel the comfort of the material, etc., it's a really easy way to push people over the line.
Yeah. No, it's very nice. And the new premises, obviously you don't have the space here to do alterations on site and I know you work with third-party providers to help in that respect, but is a vision for the brand to, I'm thinking of brands like Nudie, of having alterations and also retail on site in the same place.
Yeah, I think it's like there's a certain style that it's never really going to be operationally more efficient to use your like flagship really expensive square footage to do alterations, when actually there's much cheaper offsites that make more sense. Like it's very unlikely that your alterers and people with the right skill sets are going to be living in Covent Garden. Like there's very few people that live in Covent Garden, full stop. So it's easier to outsource that offsite. What it does provide is like a nice insight into how it works and behind the scenes and a different vision for the brand, whereas what we're creating in the new space will feel more like a members club. So it's a community hub for people. Once you've bought a suit, you become part of the Batch members club. That unlocks further rewards from cross-brand partnerships or discounts with friends to invites to exclusive events, etc. But really nurturing a community of people that can all feed off each other, and there's been lots of different cool influential people that have bought suits that can connect on a business level and or beyond on a social level. So it's a slightly different outlook to that, and alterations on site is probably not what we're looking to do in this location. Albeit the key point of that is consumers are looking for more than just a retail space. What other value does it add? What's the experience of it? Shopping is an experience these days. It's less of a like functional, I'm going to the shop to buy this, because actually it's probably more functional to buy something online. You save yourself loads of time, you do it in 5 minutes, and you don't have to go through the stress of like fighting through the crowds and in Soho. So there's a new stage of retail, which is bringing the high street, like there's loads of chat a couple of years ago about the high street being dead. Really it's not. It's like dead shops filling the high street. How can we change that mindset? And the way to do that is by having much more experiential. What's the value of going to that shop, and why have you walked in? Why have you stayed there? Why do you not want to leave? And that's what we're trying to create.
Can we talk a little bit about sort of those celebrity partnerships customers? I know Ramesh is one of them, and how do those customers come about?
I think we're right time, right place with what we've created, and again, just it further sort of reassuring point to the proof of the potential market that we're moving into or creating to a certain degree. In that, it's exactly what celebs want to wear on stage, on the red carpet, on TV, where you look put together but not overdressed. And I think that's like the same problem that a lot of people find throughout life for those moments. So there's slightly more special moments. It's not necessarily like you want to look super smart every day, because sometimes you're hungover and you want to throw on some tracksuits and hope that no one sees you. But we do increasingly, as we're moving into this experience culture, have lots of events that we do want to look good for. And so right place, right time from a product perspective, combined with having a physical retail space to invite people to. So you put those two things together, and we'll reach out to people on Instagram and say like, look, Ramesh, we'd love to give you a suit. Do you want to come in for a free suit fitting? He takes a look at the Instagram, sees the product, aligns with what he wants to wear on stage. Event took us probably 6 months to actually, like, he's busiest man alive, to get him to come in and visit us. Tries the suit on, loves it, has a 60 show UK tour coming up. It's like, need a tour outfit. Buys 3 more suits alongside the free one that we gave him. Wears it throughout all his tour, loves it, starts getting loads of compliments on what he's wearing, and he's now become a big investor of the brand.
Wow.
Oh, cool. That's a great story.
Yeah.
And when you look at the world of fashion and apparel, you've designed quite a clever process in that you reduced the barriers to entry into the market space, and you're able to compete in your own lane as opposed to competing against the fast fashion brands. As a founder now, with the fashion experience that you have, is there another area of fashion that kind of stands out to you as needing renovating, could have maybe that sort of that sprinkle of what you guys have done in that space, and another entrepreneur might be able to work their way through?
Definitely, I think like all competition is good competition, and there's I think it's sometimes viewed the wrong way as founders, in that the more small businesses there are fighting in the same sort of channel against our key competition is the big guys, the big fast fashion retailers. So the more people that are encouraging you know, okay, let's change the perspective on that. You buy a Batch suit, you're like, that was cool, new UK startup, love what they're doing, love the high quality for less, that's great. You're now going to go investigate more things that fill that same scenario, and that works both ways. So other people that have found sort of new, cool, up and coming fashion brands are going to be more open to shopping what we're selling, getting out of the mindset of like, I only buy clothes from Uniqlo, which a lot of people fall into.
Yeah.
So I think all competition is good competition. In terms of other things that I think need shaking up, I think made to order is going to be really interesting to see how it develops, because the way that the fashion industry works at the moment doesn't work. We're quite quickly getting to the point where we're running out of resources. Companies are having to compete on price and quality. Margins are thinning. Quality is getting worse. So quite quickly, people are falling out of love with buying loads of cheap crap that falls apart. But there's some things that don't make sense, or don't make as much sense on a made-to-order model, like t-shirts, for example. They're kind of something that you want right here, right now. They do have a shorter shelf life. You do, like, a white t-shirt does get dirty, and it does get to a point where it's like, this doesn't work anymore. But there are other products that we're releasing an overcoat, for example, which is another. There's no an industry that I think is slightly broken in that you're either spending loads of money on a quite nice overcoat, or you're spending still quite a lot of money on something that's crap. And there's nothing in the mid-market that you get really high quality without spending a fortune. And there are other products that fit that same category, which is what we'll focus on, rather than being like, we're a one-stop shop for everything. Because I don't really think that's what people are asking for.
Yes.
I don't think it's pretty rare that you want to buy everything that you wear from one place. Like, we're not experts in underwear.
Yeah.
We are experts in smart casual wear. Yeah. So like, come to us for your smart casual wear.
Yes. Do you ever get inquiries from corporate clients, people who are looking to purchase your apparel on behalf of their teams and things like that?
Yeah, we do. And something we've not quite found the perfect formula for yet. But doing business to business uniforms, our suits from a uniform perspective are still come out as relatively expensive versus buying cheap shit merch, which is like where it mostly ends up for brands that are buying merch.
And the process you've set up seems like the most effective way to deliver high quality materials at the most affordable price, really.
It is, because we're saving on the things that your traditional fashion markups are having to charge a fortune for.
Yeah.
It's like normally 4.7 times on average, which is a lot. It's a big markup. And they're having to cover for end of season sales. I was walking around, we're in Spitalfields at the moment, in the area this summer, and the smallest sale I saw was 50% off. The biggest was 75% off. It's like, can't run a business with a 75% off sale. And if you can, like, what sort of premium are you being charged on the clothes when you're not paying for the sale?
Yeah. Yes.
And why would you shop there when there isn't a sale on? Because you know there's going to be 2 sales a year, so you just wait. So that the whole model is broken. It doesn't make any sense. And in order to regain that margin from the 75% off, it's like, well, where can we save in the supply chain? So the quality gets worse. So the clothes fall apart more quickly. So you're back in this loop of waste that's not good for people, it's not good for business, it's not good for the planet. It's like, it doesn't benefit anyone.
And you know, the founder of Uniqlo doesn't wear Uniqlo. And that's the Achilles heel. They don't pay enough attention to their product.
I was going to ask, back on sustainability, where does the made to order rank compared to, let's say, like renting suits? Because I know that, you know, like Moss, for example, they have a big rental department. How does that compare versus made to order?
Renting is the most sustainable way of wearing clothes. It's not really what everyone wants to do. So it's like, there's 3 R's, which is rent, repair, and reuse. And those are like the three, if you want to focus purely on sustainability in fashion, those are the 3 to go after. Like reuse, i.e. like remake an old t-shirt into something else. Repair, stuff that gets little holes in that's all far too easy to just throw away. Or rent. And so that's the core. Beyond that, made to order is the most sustainable way of buying clothes.
And is there, I mean, obviously because you are made to order, I would assume there's no room for some kind of rental.
We actually do offer a rental.
Oh, wow.
But we do it in a slightly different way, in that there's a 4 to 8 week lead time. A lot of people are buy suits last minute for weddings, mostly men, because we're quite shit at that. Where we, rather than turn someone away, if they've bought a suit, we will facilitate lending them a sample to wear to that event. They just need to get it back to us quickly.
And that's that sort of Batch community club feel, right? Once you're in, once you've bought a suit, you're sort of in the club, and you can, I mean, I had an interesting experience, because in the first season of this podcast, for some reason we decided to wear suits, and for some reason I said I'm not going to wear the same suit more than once, which was very difficult. And I ended up using Moss Box Unlimited.
Nice.
And it's shit.
Is it?
It's really shit, because it's okay in the fact that they have a wide selection, but the problem is that they basically will only ship you what they have to hand. And so about 3 times I was sent a grey suit jacket with caramel coloured trousers. And it's like, I'm not at the regatta anymore, I can't fucking wear this.
Cheers.
And their response was, oh, well, what you could do is you could pay £10 per go to get the exact item you want. It's like, I already pay you a subscription, now I have to pay more money to actually get what I want. And you know, again, the reason I was it was a bit of a leading question before about sustainability, because when you've got someone like me who's absolutely spamming the system, sending a suit back each time, it suddenly isn't particularly sustainable, because each time it gets sent out to another person, it has to be dry cleaned, it has to be shipped, it's shipping one way, shipping the other. And so actually I do wonder if the rental market, used like how I was using it, probably isn't actually particularly sustainable.
No, I think that if you're over-indexing on it, then it's slightly different. But yeah, I don't know, rental is just an interesting one culturally. I think lots of people get frustrated with renting something that you really like and then having to give it back, and you've just sunk cash in it. And it's like, I don't know, I think we are still in a culture where we like things, we like possessions. Like consumerism isn't going to die overnight, and that's a really interesting thought process. It's a question we've been asked a few times, particularly by investors. At what point does your desire to be a sustainable fashion brand conflict with your desire to grow? And our answer is always pretty much the same. It's like, the more people we can get shopping more on this made to order model, the better, and less worried about whether someone's buying too much of the same thing, because if they're buying from us, they're not buying from someone else. We're not going to stop people buying, not in our lifetime. So can we get people to buy better? Can we light a match that starts the fire? I think that's where we want to get to with it. And as nice as it would be for everyone to rent everything, it's not realistic.
Does that mean that if things go well, we should expect to see Batch across the UK?
Yeah, I think our vision is to be the go-to made-to-order brand in the world.
Wow.
In the smart casual space, which is lofty ambitions, but shoot for the moon and shoot for the stars and land on the moon. I think is the phrase. So we want to go big with it. We want to go global. Physical retail, we will expand across different locations in the UK and internationally to really hit big scale and big growth. Our online needs to fall further in line with our physical retail. Probably sell 2/3 of our suits in store versus 1/3 online, and really that needs to invest to hit big growth numbers. Part of that's brand trust, part of that's more reviews, part of that's word of mouth from friends, and a lot of it's down to how we've been marketing and sort of making sure that people know that it is off the shelf sizing, that there's really clear fitting guides for you to size yourself up. So there's lots of different changes of terminology that will make a big impact.
And obviously you said earlier that 70% of people who try on a suit are more likely to buy it, right?
Go on to buy it. And
so are you getting feedback from people who say are up in Liverpool or Manchester saying, I'd love to try this on, but I can't make it down to London?
Not too much yet. I think we're probably just a stage before that. Most of our focus is on London. Any social ads that we run, we target London. Partly for that reason, because we want people to come to the store. It creates that sense of community. It's why the community is strong and growing, because we get to meet most of our customers face to face and tell them the story, and
they get to feel the herringbone.
They get to feel the herringbone, exactly.
I mean, it is important.
But we might try and solve that issue of location expanding out into new sites across the UK by going mobile.
Okay.
Oh, nice.
And just like doing pop-ups in different cities to work out what's the next most lucrative place outside of London, or like is it better to just be mobile and I don't know, get a big truck that you can park up in the centre of Manchester.
Are there events like exhibitions around, you know, in this space that you would get something and pop up, or is it?
There are to a certain degree, but because we don't sell wholesale, exhibitions are sort of less of a focus for us. A big angle we're going to go for over the next sort of 12 months is going mobile in various office spaces, so different workplaces that we know our suits work well in, whether that's recruiting, whether that's architecture. We're getting a good feel of who's buying our suits and why, and if it's buying it for work, then there's more people to go and target. So going and bringing a selection of suits and popping up in someone's office space so you can introduce it to loads of people at once, and kind of similar to how you guys are operating, where it's like rather than getting people to come to your podcast studio, you're going to them.
Quite right.
It's just removing another barrier to entry, which is like, oh, I'd love to come down, but I can't find the time in work, and it's like, well, oh, surprise, we're in your kitchen.
Remember a sales award, you know, in my early 20s, I got a voucher for hitting some milestone at a recruitment company that I was working at for 2 years, and you get your free first tailored suit. And in reality, any young 20s, unless they've hit the jackpot and they're making decent money, would only ever receive a somewhat customized or made to order suit if someone else is paying for it.
Exactly.
Which is why it's so exciting to go into offices, because it's a perfect first reward. From a company's perspective, here's a reward for doing well. You get a customized suit that makes our company look better. You
dress better, you're happy.
And the difference with getting a batch suit than a suit made in somewhere else is that at the weekend, you can continue wearing it. Which is different to the suit I got back in the day.
You're praying for a grandparent to die so your parents buy you a suit.
Yes, running out of them. Only got 2 suits left.
It's quite funny you say that, because like we were interviewing one of our customers the other day, just like getting some feedback for a bit of content, and he was explaining that he was wearing a suit to a funeral, and that's probably like the only place that we don't market our suits to, and we're like, maybe we should, but it's kind of a bit of a down.
It's a good play.
All this positive.
Ideally, the person in the casket.
Like, you can wear this.
That's how you get the most eyes.
You can wear this to a funeral or to the pub with your mates.
I'd like an open casket with me presented in this, to bring out my.
Yeah, but be bad with it.
It'd be a nice one to be buried in. Buried in the. We get a bit ahead of ourselves. It would speak to the durability of the brand. You know, buy a suit now, get buried in it when you're 80.
Yeah, wow.
You know, that's.
If I could guarantee that, I would do it my master.
It seems to me like there's a lot ahead. You've got the move, which will have happened by mid-October to Covent.
Looking to move in somewhere between mid-October and mid-November. It's going to be a real step up for the brand. It's a huge next step. It's in the right area. It's where you go shopping for clothes, really. Here isn't as much. You might bimble around for food and drink or to go to a restaurant, but you're not really shopping. You might be if you're looking for a specific location, but in Covent Garden and Soho, your discovery. You're walking around slowly looking to discover new brands and spend money. So it's going to be really exciting moving to a new area with new clientele. We're growing the team at the moment. Just hired a new head of retail and events manager, and so there's some really exciting stuff happening. Got a new collection on the way, which we're wearing, which will be out by the time this is out.
Yes, very nice.
So there's lots of exciting things happening.
And when you sit here looking at the suits, the new collection, you're wearing the new collection, you're looking around the store, I'm always curious to know if you think only a few years back you were sat there being like, oh bastard, I can't get a suit that I want. And this is how this journey began. Do you sometimes sit in the room and be like, oh lol, there's all these people wearing the suits that came from my mind, it's kind of manifested, it's fun.
It's so funny how hard it is to reflect on that. And like when you're in a bit of a growth mindset, it's like next thing, and rather than being like, hang on a minute, this is pretty cool.
Yeah, stop and smell the roses.
You do get a few moments where I was like, remember the first time was locking. This was actually the first shop we moved into. We're now back in it again, which is slightly ironic. But the first time I was like locking the door to this shop, that I've got a shop.
Yeah, right.
What's going on? But yeah, there are a few moments. And
what about moments like, you know, if you're just on social media and you get tagged or something, or even just walking past someone in the street and they're wearing your designs, must just be.
Yeah, or just spotting someone. Yeah, just pretty cool.
Amazing.
Pretty cool. Turning on the telly and you're like, I didn't know that was coming out.
Yeah.
I kind of have ideas that your community events are going to look a bit like Kanye West concerts.
Yeah.
Like, where everyone's
Got so many different colours. It's like refresh a lolly.
yeah. And you'll be in the middle, you know,
Yeah, I love it.
with a new fabric swab, and everyone will be like, ooh, what is it?
Yeah, like
I had to resist.
Yeah, exactly.
I had to
What's
resist the
new
whole
fabric?
podcast talking about the Kanye Super Bowl batch model.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
way that he did it all pre-ordered.
Yes.
That's all.
Right.
I bring it up in every podcast, so I need
Yeah.
to like not stop talking about it. But this was the only podcast that was relevant.
Yeah, and the one you're not allowed to.
Everyone's talking about tech. I'm like, yeah, but have you seen what Kanye did at the Super Bowl? They're like, shut up. Like,
Yeah,
doesn't matter.
Reload.
We are where we are.
Wicked. Okay,
Cool.
well, good luck
Thank
with it
you
all.
guys.
Thanks for your
Thanks.
time
Really
today.
appreciate it. It's been great to chat.